Well, I don't speak Turkish, but I did hear my name, so here I am. It is an enormous pleasure for me to be part of this green building conference. I think this is really the subject of the moment and of the future. I come at it with different instruments, if you want. I do not come necessarily from the environmental movement, though I am a strong supporter and believer, nor do I come from the building side. I come from the perspective of the city, a complex system. And of course, we know that cities are a source of major problems, whether immediately in the city or through the geographies of extraction, which are global, and instantiate in cities where they produce a lot of damage, mining, all those kinds of things. But the cities will have to be the solution. There is no choice. And in a way, that is an optimistic statement that the cities, which are such sources of negative effects, can be, must be part of the solution. Now, what I'm doing in my research is two types of things, and they pertain very much to the space, the complex space, the space of diversity that is the city. One of them is, if you think about the biosphere has multiple ecologies and is a multiscalar system. Multiscalar meaning that what at level A means something, at level B could mean another thing, etc., etc. It scales up, scales down. Cities have multiple ecologies and are multiscalar systems. What this does is raise the complexity of the solution. If we use the complexity that is embedded and instantiates in cities to rethink, reconstitute our relationship to the biosphere, I think we raise the level of effectiveness. It does mean going well beyond modest measures of mitigation, adaptation. We need much more. And one of the issues I'm examining in my research is whether all these articulations that we have today between cities and the biosphere that are mostly negative, but they exist, they are connections, they are bridges. The challenge is, can we change the valence of those articulations? In a way, what I'm saying is that if the biosphere, complex, multiscalar, multiple ecologies, were absolutely separate, autonomous, completely different in its structure from the city, the challenge would be much larger. If there were no direct articulations, but we have millions of articulations, little ones, big ones, they exist. They are systems of communication. Now, they're almost all negative. Not all of them, because certain kinds of density, etc., there is quite a bit of research that shows that. But imagine the task of changing the valence. That's an ambitious project, but it is a project with a shape. Now, cities have extraordinary capacities to actually generate new social natural or social biospheric systems. They also are negative mostly. I don't need to tell this audience what some of them are. Again, can we use those capabilities to construct a kind of third space, something that is between the biosphere and the city? It is there. We're making it bad now. Can we make it good? There is something there that we cannot simply dismiss, because the city has got to be part of the solution. We all know that. And hence, what is there now, we need to work with. And that is why I think that while adaptation and mitigation are very important, they are not enough, and we can do much more. Now, here I describe on the slide, by now you have all read it, some of these properties that are multiscalar and also the whole notion of multiple ecologies. Cities can mobilize biological, biospheric capacities in whole new ways, in ways that other spaces, a rural space, a very small village, does not. So a truck, well, what I have here is this whole notion of how the city has reconstituted much of the rural world. The rural world in a remote past was centered on a kind of notion of biodiversity, which was good. Now it sort of imports stuff that may originate in a rural area but gets processed in the city and then goes back. That is a capability. It's a terrible one. But the notion for me is, again, to recover sort of this multivalence. And then the scaling aspect. If you have a truck, a car, 3 houses in a rural area, they emit, they produce greenhouse gases. But what they do not do is what the city does, which is produce a whole other, as I was saying, a whole other sphere, a whole other presence. Ozone holes at the level, heat islands. So I want to sort of analytically, it's the sort of the scientist a bit in me, the analytic geek. This exists. This is interesting qua system. Complexity, open, multiscalar, dynamic, it keeps transforming. Think of cities. Cities have outlived empires, republics, national states, multinational corporations. Why? Because they are complex systems, but they're open. They can keep on altering the valence of a lot of what happens inside of it. So my starting point is not as the good environmentalist, I confess, though I believe in very good environmentalism, but it is more the starting point of sort of an analytics that maximizes the recognition of all these complexities and what we can do with them. Now, here is another aspect that I always find very intriguing. The city contains a variety of systems that have extraordinary capacities of transmission. Think of an epidemic. But, you know, they're of course also now sort of negative. So what starts in an individual body or in a few individual bodies